It was 2:11 a.m. when the neighbor's daughter started speaking in a voice that wasn't hers. Mina had always been a quiet girl, barely 8, shy, soft-spoken, the kind of child who hid behind her mother's leg when someone said hello. So when I heard her talking through the paper-thin walls of our old apartment complex, I assumed it was another late-night cartoon. But the voice wasn't a child's. It was low, gravelly, like someone dragging metal across stone. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. My apartment, 7B, shared a bedroom wall with theirs. And that night, for the first time in the year I'd lived there, I heard words clearly. I said, "Stop staring at me." A pause, then a man replied. Except there was no man living in 7A, just Mina and her mom. A cold pulse shot through me. I slid out of bed, pressed my ear to the wall. Mina's mother whispered, "Honey, please, you're scaring me." Then the deep voice returned, through Mina's tiny throat. "She can't hear you anymore." I staggered back. My first thought was a break-in, my second, a nightmare. But then came the sound that made my skin crawl. Mina giggling. Not sweetly, not playfully. A jagged, broken laugh, like she was choking on it. I grabbed my phone, opened the door, and rushed into the hallway. But the moment I touched the knob of 7A, the entire apartment went silent. I knocked. "Sarah, you okay?" Nothing. Then, one slow, deliberate knock from the other side of the door. I backed away instantly. Sarah finally opened, face pale, hair messy, eyes swollen from crying. "She's sleeping now," she whispered, but I didn't believe her. Behind her, Mina's bedroom door was cracked open, and from the darkness inside, 2 eyes gleamed at me. Not reflective, not sleepy. Wide, unblinking, too still to be human. I froze. The door suddenly slammed shut from inside. Sarah jumped. "I'll talk to you tomorrow." Then she closed the door. The next day, I talked to the building manager. He rubbed his forehead, sighed, and said, "You're on the 7th floor. I'm sorry. That place has history." "What kind of history?" He said, "The last tenant in 7A claimed her son was possessed." I blinked. "Possessed? Like actually?" He said, "They found him talking in languages he never learned. Room was freezing cold even with the heat on. Kid attacked his mom one night. They moved out." My stomach dropped. "Did anyone check the place?" He said, "Priests. Twice." He shrugged. "Didn't do much." I returned to my apartment, trembling. That night, 2:11 a.m. again, like clockwork, I heard it. "Why did you tell him?" Mina's voice, except twisted. I pressed my pillow over my head, didn't help. Against the shared wall, like fists or a child's head slamming into plaster. I ran into my living room ready to call the police. Then, the knocks moved, from the wall, to the ceiling, to directly above me. But I lived on the top floor. No one was above me. The ceiling groaned, dust fell. I backed away as something clawed across the drywall with sharp, scraping movements. Then, "Let me in, 7B." Mina's voice whispering from the ceiling. I grabbed my keys, bolted from the apartment, and didn't stop running until I reached the lobby. The next morning, police cars and an ambulance surrounded the building. I rushed to the crowd. "What happened?" A paramedic shook her head. "Little girl in 7A had some kind of episode. Mother found her convulsing, said she was speaking in a deep male voice." My chest tightened. "Is she okay?" The medic paused, then whispered, "She kept repeating one phrase before she passed out." "What phrase?" The medic exhaled shakily. "Let me in, 7B." 3 days later, Sarah and her daughter moved out. They didn't take most of their belongings. They didn't say goodbye. Their apartment remains empty. Yet every night at 2:11 a.m., I hear it. Let me in. Sometimes from the wall, sometimes from the ceiling. Last night, though, Last night, it whispered from inside my closet.